Hey everybody, CVH here, and today I have a very exciting video for you. The fine people at Bethesda and Direwolf Digital have once again allowed me to preview a card from the upcoming expansion, this one for Return to Clockwork City, coming to Legends on November 30th, and similar to what I did for the Heroes of Skyrim and Fall of the Dark Brotherhood preview cards, you guys are going to get the first look. I'm going to go over its stats, its effect, all the basic parts about it, and then give my opinions on the competitive implications, what decks it might fit in, any new decks it might lead to, arena viability as well. But I've rambled long enough, let's take a look at the card, and if you want the full image of the card or the art that you're about to see, check the description, I'll leave them there. But let's take a look at the card itself. Mecinar, 8 Magicka 4/4, neutral, dark elf, and it's a unique legendary, so you will only be able to play one copy of this card maximum in your deck. With Summon, stitch together the top creature from both decks to create an Abomination and put it into your hand. So, first glance, stats aren't very good, but the effect seems very intriguing. If you're anything like me, you're probably thinking, alright, this sounds cool, I'm into this, but how does it work? So, let's talk about how it works, according to Bethesda and Direwolf. When you play Mecinar, he'll take the top card of your opponent's deck and the top card of your deck and turn them into an Abomination. The Abomination will always be a neutral creature with the combined power and health of the two creatures and the cost of the more expensive creature. You will then get to pick the text box from one of the creatures for the Abomination to have. For an example, if the top card of your deck was a Windkeep Spellsword and the top card of your opponent's deck was a Giant Bat, you'll get a 3-cost 4/4, and you'd get to choose whether it had Ward or Charge and Drain. For another example, Kinral Burglar plus Belligerent Giant would equal a 7-cost 11/8 with Drain and Pilfer, +4/+4, or a 7-cost 11/8 with Breakthrough and Summon, unsummon a creature in this lane, or destroy an enemy support. Cliff Racer plus Cicero the Betrayer would equal a 6-cost 5/10 charge, or a 6-cost 5/10 with Lethal, and all of the rest of Cicero's text. The new card will have the name of whatever creature you chose the ability for, the subtype Abomination, and new Abomination art. Also, the two original creatures that create the Abomination are removed from the game. So don't feel bad if any of that wasn't obvious to you. I did have to get clarification from Bethesda itself, because I just didn't exactly know how the Abominations and stitching cards together actually worked. Last I checked, that wasn't an ability word, but it is good to get clarification, and those are the official examples I was given, so hopefully that cleared things up for you as well. And that's definitely very cool. Some things I like about that are that you're actually getting rid of the two cards it uses, therefore you can't make reads basically on what's left on top of your opponent's deck with Mecinar because the card is simply going to be gone. It also makes it not only hard for your opponent to play around what Mecinar could have possibly given you, but they're also just down a card. We've seen a lot of times, the sheer joy on a player's face when they play Thieves Guild Shadowfoot and steal their Ram Scout's Parthenax. Just denying a card like that while getting a powerful copy of that effect yourself that might not even have originated in your deck or in your class. Obviously, Parthenax is a neutral, but let's say you're playing this in a Scout deck yourself and you steal your opponent's Hiking Emmerich or something like that. That's one Emmerich down for them and a really powerful effect on whatever Abomination you wind up getting. Also, you're not adding together the costs of these two creatures that you're stitching together effectively. It's just going to be the highest cost one. So a lot of times, the Mecinar Abominations could be pretty reasonably costed. Obviously, in some of those examples like the Giant Bat Windkeep Spellsword one, it is a very cheap card, but a very powerful card for the Magicka cost. And this card is going to be giving you an extra creature that is objectively better than any other creature you or your opponents could possibly be playing. And adding together the stats on the two creatures makes Mecinar especially scary if one of the creatures had Charge. For example, in the Cliff Racer example, it was going to be a 6-cost 5/10 with Charge if you wanted to take the Cliff Racer's text box. Charge, obviously, probably going to be one of the more powerful things to choose with Mecinar. You are getting a choice, and in constructed play, there are very few vanilla creatures which don't have effects that see play. At the very least, a card like Cliff Racer or Windkeep Spellsword is going to be there with a keyword, and if you can couple that with the stats of something else and keep it sort of reasonably costed, that by itself could be pretty powerful in addition to all the crazy high utility effects we've already mentioned some of, like, Silence, High King Emmerich, Parthenax, Odaving. The cards this could generate, I'm sure I don't need to tell you about all the crazy combinations, but essentially limitless, depending on the matchup. And while it's unpredictable, the overall power level of the Abomination itself is going to be incredibly high. Now, of course, that's balanced out by the fact that Mecinar's power level himself It's a little bit lacking. Obviously, we're spending 8 Magicka for a 4/4, and that's not particularly great. So where do I see this card fitting in? It's definitely a value card. This is a card which on summon generates an additional card for you. It is also with the downside, not only is it removing your opponent's card that gets stitched together, but also whatever top creature of your deck. Now, you could of course just choose your own creature's effect if it's that critical to your strategy, and then you'll just have it as part of the Abomination with additional stats. That is something to consider, but it is giving you an extra card in your hand. You're paying 8 for a 4/4 that basically +1s you in card advantage. So already I'm thinking control, I'm thinking ramp, I'm thinking a slow deck that can actually get to 8 Magicka consistently, and when it's at 8 Magicka, it doesn't want to be pressuring the opponent too much. It wants to be generating additional value and doing some crazy late game things, which Mecinar just completely screams late game craziness to me. That said, I don't think this card has any real viability against aggro or even the faster mid-range decks that'll be pressuring you. This card does not do anything to the board on summon, and it does not basically do anything defensively for you. It's not a guard. It's not going to help you out if you're getting pressured. This card is only going to be good against aggro and mid-range, probably after you've already stabilized and you're not really worried about dying in the immediate future. And at that point, pretty much anything is good. But if you're fighting for that incremental bit of value in a control versus control matchup, or maybe it's up against one of those aggressive decks that's already run out of cards and you're just trying to find that one crazy draw that puts them out of the game, Mecinar could possibly be that. Definitely could be that late game value tool in the control versus control matchup. Not only is it getting rid of one of your opponent's options, but you're going to be generating a more than likely a pretty gigantic threat at least, with who knows what effect. Is it inconsistent? Yeah, a bit. I mean, it is limited in its variance by the creatures you and your opponent are playing, but that's matchup dependent, and that's obviously draw dependent, whatever the top card of your opponent's deck is. Kind of similar to Illusory Mimic in that way, and that card was a bit more inconsistent. I think Mecinar at the very least gives you so much value that it'll probably wind up seeing some fun gimmicky play in some of those slow decks regardless, but it is, worth noting that it's a little bit random. Now, just the power level of some of the late game cards especially that are seeing play in constructed decks nowadays, I think you're going to make this card an absolute blast to play. I'm not sure if it's going to be competitive, I'm not sure if it's going to be seen in high-tier decks, but I do know that I'm very excited to get my hands on it and try it out just to see what kind of crazy abominations I can make. I don't think I mentioned Arena too much either, but in Arena, this card does suffer from being a bit slow, and 8-cost 4/4 is harder to justify when most decks are trying to maintain a reasonable curve and play things that don't sacrifice too much tempo. Mecinar definitely sacrifices a bit of tempo if you're playing it as an 8-cost 4/4, unless you can somehow reduce the Magicka cost or ramp in your Arena deck, which is not too consistent anyway. But then you get this crazy Abomination, and in Arena, there's less targeted removal, so if you can just generate something with a ton of stats for whatever Magicka you're going to pay for it, you might be able to regain that tempo from Mecinar. I don't think it'll be one of the best legendaries in Arena, but I definitely think this could be potentially very powerful if you just play this after both players have run out of resources. Maybe you're playing a slower Arena deck that can justify it a bit more over the other 2 cards you get offered. Play Mecinar, get those top 2 cards, and then you might have an incredible amount of stats for the Magicka you're going to play, and in Arena that really matters. I mean, you just play a 4/4, hopefully they don't out-tempo you because of that, play something huge, and that could help you close the game. And in Arena, you see a lot more of those vanilla cards like Cave Bear and stuff, so you're probably just going to be playing Mecinar to generate something with a lot of stats. It's unlikely you'll get a crazy effect. You could obviously steal the text box of whichever one has a text box if one of them is vanilla and one of them's not, so you'll probably get something a lot of the time, but even if you're just getting a ton of stats, my point is in Arena, that's a lot better than it is in Constructed. And in Constructed, you can sometimes get those crazy high utility and very swingy effects like Red Brahmin and Tazcad and Odiving and all that kind of craziness. So that's it for my preview card, Mecinar. It's definitely one of the weirdest cards I think we've seen previewed in Return to Clockwork City and basically in Legends so far. And it's also one of the coolest. I'm really into this card. I'm excited to try it out. It's one of those cards that, has me intrigued not only as a competitive player, but also as someone who just likes doing crazy, wacky things and seeing where that can take me as far as actually winning the game. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, join the conversation in the comments. Let me know what you think about Mecinar, what you think about the Abominations and the card design surrounding this card, and what you're excited to play it in. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like and stay subscribed for more Legends content. Follow my stream in the description. I'll see you next time.